You know, it always starts the same way. Not with the truth, but with a question. A quiet one. The kind you ask yourself late at night when the world is still, when the distractions fade, when there's nothing left to do but sit with your thoughts. If he wanted to be with me, wouldn't he be? And somehow, instead of letting that question give you clarity, you let it confuse you. Because your heart starts filling in the gaps your mind is too afraid to accept. Maybe he's just busy. Maybe he's overwhelmed. Maybe he's going through something. Maybe I need to be more patient. Maybe I need to love him harder. Maybe I need to understand him better. And before you know it, you've built an entire story to protect someone who never protected your heart. But today, we're going to sit in a different kind of truth. A truth that doesn't beg. A truth that doesn't chase. A truth that doesn't require interpretation. If he wanted to be with you, he would. Not halfway. Not sometimes. Not when it's convenient. Not when he feels lonely. He would. And I know that sentence feels heavy. Because it removes the excuses. It removes the what-ifs. It removes the hope you've been holding on to like it's the last piece of him you have left. But what it also does is give you your power back. Because the moment you accept that truth is the moment you stop abandoning yourself for someone who already has. Let's talk about the part nobody likes to admit. You didn't fall in love with confusion. You didn't fall in love with inconsistency. You didn't fall in love with waiting by your phone, rereading messages, analyzing tone, wondering why his energy shifted. That's not love. That's anxiety. That's emotional instability dressed up as connection. Real love doesn't leave you guessing. Real love doesn't make you question your worth. Real love doesn't require you to shrink, bend, or perform just to keep someone interested. And yet, you stayed. Not because you're weak, but because you saw something. Potential. Moments. Glimpses of who he could be. And those glimpses felt so real, so convincing, that you started loving him based on who he showed you in pieces, not who he consistently chose to be. And that right there is where so many women lose themselves. You didn't fall for who he was. You fell for who he could be, if he chose you the way you chose him. But here's the truth that will set you free, even if it stings at first. Potential is not commitment. Effort is. Consistency is. Presence is. And if you have to question whether someone wants you, you already have your answer. Because a man who truly wants to be with you doesn't leave room for doubt. He doesn't risk losing you. He doesn't play games with your emotions. He doesn't show up one day and disappear the next. He doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. He makes it clear. Not just with words, but with actions. And I know how hard it is to accept that. Because accepting that means you have to also accept something else. That you were giving your love to someone who wasn't giving you theirs in return. And that realization can feel like rejection. But it's not rejection. It's redirection. It's life pulling you out of a situation where you were overextending yourself and placing you back into alignment with your worth. Because let's be honest for a moment, you weren't asking for too much. You were asking the wrong person. You weren't too emotional. You were emotionally invested in someone who couldn't meet you there. You weren't hard to love. You were trying to be loved by someone who didn't know how or didn't want to. And those are two very different things. But they both lead to the same outcome, you not being chosen. And that hurts. Not because you needed him, but because you wanted him. Because you saw something in him. Because you imagined a future. Because you allowed yourself to feel deeply. And there is nothing wrong with that. Your ability to love is not the problem. Your willingness to stay where you're not loved back is. And that's where your power lies. Because you can't control whether someone chooses you, but you can control whether you keep choosing someone who doesn't. Read that again. You can't control whether he wants to be with you, but you can control whether you keep showing up for someone who clearly isn't showing up for you. And that's the shift. That's where healing begins. Not when he changes. Not when he comes back. Not when he finally realizes your worth. But when you do. When you stop waiting for closure from someone who gave you confusion. When you stop hoping for consistency from someone who thrives in inconsistency. When you stop romanticizing the bare minimum. Because you've been starved of real love for so long. Because let's call it what it is. You weren't asking for the world. You were asking for effort, for communication, for honesty, for presence, for intentionality. And somehow, that felt like too much for him. But here's what you need to understand. If someone makes you feel like you're asking for too much, it's because they know they're not willing to give you what you deserve. So instead of stepping up, they make you question yourself. They make you feel needy. They make you feel demanding. They make you feel like your standards are unrealistic, so that you lower them, just enough to keep them comfortable. But at what cost? Your peace? Your confidence? Your self-worth? Because every time you accept less than what you deserve, you teach yourself that you don't deserve more. And that's the quiet damage. That's the part nobody sees. The way you slowly start doubting yourself. The way you start overanalyzing everything. The way you start silencing your needs just to avoid pushing him away. The way you start losing pieces of who you are. Trying to hold on to someone who was never fully yours to begin with. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. You don't lose someone who doesn't choose you. You lose time. You lose energy. You lose yourself. Temporarily. But you don't lose them. Because they were never fully there. And once you accept that, something shifts inside of you. You stop chasing clarity. Because you realize confusion was the clarity. You stop waiting for effort. Because you realize absence was the answer. You stop holding on to potential. Because you finally see reality. And reality says this: if he wanted to be with you, he would. Not eventually. Not one day. Not when he's ready. Not when his life is together. Not when he figures himself out. Now. In the present. Because people make time for what they truly want. They prioritize what matters to them. They show up for what they value. And if you're not experiencing that, it's not because you're not enough. It's because you're not his choice. And I know that's hard to hear. But I'd rather you face a painful truth than live in a comforting lie. Because the lie keeps you stuck. The lie keeps you waiting. The lie keeps you hoping for a version of him that only exists in your mind. But the truth? The truth sets you free. Because once you stop trying to be chosen, you start choosing yourself. And that changes everything. You start protecting your energy. You start honoring your needs. You start setting boundaries. You start walking away from anything that doesn't feel aligned with the life you're trying to build. And yes, it's uncomfortable at first. Because you're used to holding on. You're used to making excuses. You're used to seeing the good in people, even when it costs you. But healing requires a different version of you. A version that doesn't just love others deeply, but loves herself enough to walk away when that love isn't reciprocated. Because love is not supposed to feel like a constant battle. It's not supposed to feel like you're trying to convince someone to see your value. It's not supposed to feel like you're always the one giving more, caring more, trying more. That's not love. That's imbalance. And you deserve balance. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve someone who meets you where you are, not someone you have to chase just to feel seen. So if you're sitting here, still wondering, still questioning, still hoping, let this be the moment you choose differently. Let this be the moment you stop asking, why wasn't I enough? And start asking, why did I stay where I wasn't chosen? Because that question leads to growth. That question leads to awareness. That question leads to change. And that change? That's where your freedom is. Because one day, you're going to meet someone who doesn't confuse you. Someone who doesn't make you question where you stand. Someone who doesn't disappear when things get real. Someone who doesn't need to be convinced to love you. And when you do, you're going to look back at this version of yourself. The one who cried. The one who waited. The one who tried to make it work. And you're going to feel something unexpected. Not regret. Not shame. But gratitude. Because she didn't give up. Because she kept loving. Even when it hurt. Because she eventually found the strength to walk away. And because of that, you became the woman who no longer settles for anything less than what she deserves. So today, let this be your reminder. You are not hard to love. You are not too much. You are not asking for too much. You are simply asking the wrong person. And the right one? He won't make you question it. He won't make you doubt it. He won't make you chase it. Because if he wants to be with you, he will. If this message spoke to you, if you felt this in your heart, don't ignore that. This is your sign to stop chasing someone who isn't choosing you, and start choosing yourself. Make sure you subscribe to Simply Chanel for more messages like this, because your healing journey deserves support, clarity, and peace every step of the way. And if you're ready to go deeper, to truly let go, rebuild your confidence, and step into the version of you that no longer settles. Stay connected. Your next chapter starts with you. Comment below. I choose me. Let that be the moment everything shifts. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.